Hello YouTube, this is Agent here, bringing you another Wargame European Escalation multiplayer match breakdown video. Okay, so today another 4v4 game. As usual, I'm playing Pact, and this is a particularly good game. Probably the best I've ever actually played. So it's just a perfect example of how teamwork can just shatter the enemy team. Similar to the last one that I've done, but in this one I'm on the team that has the good teamwork. Anyway, let's jump into it. So you can see, you can start off with, in this map there's sort of like 4 lanes of battle marked out by the various capture zones. I decided to sort of go for the November Mike Juliet zone. So this is what my plan was from the start. Send some VDV, I think it's VDV, it could be Vapuzu, airborne forces and an Mi-9 reconnaissance helicopter to Mike. See what's going on, know what the enemy's strength is going for. Then deploy a command vehicle in November to get the points. My ally was leaving his command vehicle behind at India. And then I'd spread out my forces and just try and take Mike as soon as possible. Especially I was going to concentrate on the forest here, because if you control the forest, you can have a huge degree of influence over the battle. They're actually key to this lane of the map. So as you can see, I've reconned the helicopter. I noticed the large group of NATO units coming down using the road, so I flagged them up for defense. And I'm setting down the Vapuzu. I'm pretty sure that Vapuzu, they're the Vapuzu infantry. They've got good reconnaissance capability, so that's what I wanted. If I could sneak them into the woods, I could see what's going on here. Elsewhere, I'm moving some Spetsnaz, ATKM and Igla infantry into these woods here to try and secure it. If I can hold these woods here, they're going to have a hard time controlling Mike. Elsewhere, I'm setting up my main force. I've got a BRDM recon as well as 4 T-62M1s. These are a new tank that I've only recently started using. They're pretty good. Their disadvantages are that you can only field 4 of them in a game, and their health isn't that good. But on the plus side, they've got a good gun, and their ATKM is very accurate, very damaging, and has good range. And they were a very good map that I found very useful in this. So as you can see here, I've set up the command vehicle as well as some basic recon and infantry to defend it, as well as some rear trucks. Remember, this is a pretty big map with very long reinforcement routes, so you always have to be sure that you've got some supply trucks in reserve, because by the time it'll take you to buy some more supplies or send your current ones back to the FOBs to refuel, it could be too late. Always have some backups for you. So as you can see, I'm setting these guys up in the long field to take advantage of their ATKM. NATO has been very odd. They haven't sent any command vehicle to capture Mike, and a large part of their forces which is being driven through the forest. I have no idea why. I mean, all these kind of tanks are just asking to be ambushed. As you can see, my allies already set up control Echo. He's got a few helicopters here, as well as some more tanks driving through the forest. I guess I don't understand why they're doing this, but there you go. These are the T-55 MV1s. They're similar to the T-60M1s, but different. So we got our first main battle of this. They're sending in Sheridans. Now, again, this is pretty bad controlling here. As you can see, the T-62s are stationary, meaning that they can take full advantage of their ATKMs when fighting the Sheridans. This is a fairly equal battle when you look at it. The T-62s are fairly balanced against the Sheridans, because the Sheridans have got the ATKMs for the firepower. However, the thing is, the Sheridans aren't supplied, so they're going to have a hard time keeping the fighting going. They can't repair themselves in battle, stuff like that. T-62s are also, I've vetted them, so their ATKMs and cannons are a lot more accurate, and they're not going to be shaken as much as the people in the Sheridans. As you can see, they're already panicked. They're only shaken. As such, the T-62s are just walking over the Sheridans. Also helps that my allies got some artillery to get rout everything that's been seen. Back here, we got some BM-27 Urgans. Elsewhere here, these Havocs are way too close to that anti-aircraft artillery and the Mi-24s as well. However, all these artillery is just being firing down. It's making quite it hard for them to focus. So elsewhere here, the NATO offensive has been stopped. Allies secure Oscar and Mike's. That's quite good. Elsewhere here, I've taken the BTRs from the various forest forces and posted them up here. Flak Panthers have been spotted by the cruisers, so I know to advise against any helicopter, and I'm bringing the T-62s in to take out the Flak Panthers. Elsewhere here, the NATO they're having a hard time because they're just pinned down in the forest by all these cheap T-55s. The problem is the T-55's disadvantage over these tanks is the range and accuracy, but they're fighting at such close quarters because of the forest that there really is no disadvantage, and the Bastion ATKMs of the AMV models are doing a huge amount of damage already. 2 KPZ 70s have fallen. These are pretty expensive tanks. That's our PT-85 armoured recon prototype. And up here, some Fago infantry are ambushing the Rolands. Probably brought in to take out the helicopters, but they're already out of the picture. Up here, the T-62s fired on the Flak Panzers, killed one of them, but the rest managed to retreat. However, they're running short of fuel. And I've brought my command vehicle up to Mike to capture it. I wasn't expecting such a quick capture. I'll be honest, I thought they'd have definitely put a much more sizable force in Mike, but overall NATO seems to have concentrated their forces on the Foxtrot Delta side of the map. As you can see, lots of Shooters from Mass Jagger infantry are sort of pinning down the helicopters. Those Mi-24s are going to die pretty quickly. Yeah, but overall Foxtrot's under some quite heavy bombardment. The Casualty Casualty Echo side has been faced down. The KPZ tanks tried to retreat away from Echo towards Mike, but I had some Conquerors infantry hidden in the woods, slightly vetted as well, and they take out another 2 starships before they can flee to the woods. There, NATO is definitely at a pretty big disadvantage, as we're at 1600 to 651 points. Elsewhere here, NATO has got quite a good defensive line. All these forests and stuff, with various infantry and stuff, it's going to be hard to push them out of this, but at this point we're feeling fairly safe. So I decided to concentrate on these woods here. I know they had heavy tanks, and at least some of their forces managed to retreat back into the woods. However, none of the forces I have here are any good. ATM infantry won't be getting close quarters. Spetsnaz will be horrible against anything other than infantry, and the Igla as well. They're just a defensive ambush force. So at this point I'm bringing up some more tanks because we have quite a good economic advantage. Let's see, 6, 7. We're getting about 17 points. They're getting 8. So at the moment we have a pretty big economic advantage because we've secured the crucial Mike zone. That's putting us a big advantage over them. Also, they haven't secured Juliet. And so it's not looking too good at this point. At this point, they were bringing some VABs. They were trying to secure this sort of storage facility. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I brought the BTRs in to fight them. As you can see, the VABs I think are a better infantry carrying vehicle, but the BTRs outnumber them 2 to 1. Unfortunately, the Shooters have been brought out now. These are pretty bad infantry. I wasn't really sure what they were doing. Their rifles are pretty poor, so they'll lose to pretty much any other infantry unit in a straight fight, but they still have the Sarpak bazooka, so if they get into this town, it could be annoying to get in the fight out, so I'm getting my BTRs to fire on them. Here. Elsewhere, C-62s have sort of, I put them in the middle of the mic so that to take advantage of their ATGMs. As you can see here, not much going on. Elsewhere over here, the BMP-1s and the Motor Strelki that I brought in are just going through the woods at a fair rate, just firing at them. As you can see that the Rolands here, they really shouldn't be in the middle of the woods because they're AA missile units. I have no idea what they were doing in the woods, but it's going to be their graves. BMP-1s will make quick work of them. Elsewhere, the Shoshers have managed to get into the refinery area, so that I've had to retreat the BTRs that are just going to be torn apart by ambushes. More artillery is brought in. Unfortunately, with a friendly fire here, the artillery cripples my motor jockey and then kills them. Bit annoying on my part, but there were some NATO units that were killed in it that I hadn't noticed, so I guess so. See, that's me telling my teammates to just stop firing. Elsewhere here, forces still a sort of stalemate on this side. I think Echo Heth is reinforcing his positions. The other BTRs were the 4 BTRs were forced away by the Shoshers to sort of maneuver around, and the VABs took an advantage, but they're still gradually losing this battle. Elsewhere, the Roland's retreating. At this point, Charlie is looking in a pretty bad shape for NATO. They really haven't brought that many forces onto it. They still seem to be focusing on taking the Foxtrot Delta area, but there's just so many woods and stuff. There's some Bradley IFVs taking out some T-62s with their ATKMs, it looks like. Elsewhere, the BMPs are firing up on the last of the Rolands. That means their AA defences in this area are now being reduced to nothing, I guess you could say. And the BTRs and the VABs are still fighting it out. Bit of a pointless fight, but you know, it's just to keep the pressure on them. Patons are rolling in. Now these are good tanks, you know, they've got a good gun, and I think their optics are quite good for a tank as well. However, they really haven't been managed that fast. The BMP-1s are going to try and help them out, but there's only so much they can do, so I'm bringing my T-62s. These will make short work of the Patons, hopefully. BMP-1s are actually doing a fair job though. I mean, one of the Patons is already pretty much destroyed. At this point I'm looking at Charlie, and I know that the CV isn't in these woods, and that pretty much means it'll be in these woods here, so I'm just letting my ally know, because he's bringing his force up. As you can see, he's consolidated his position at Echo, so now got some BTRs, and his T-55 force. Up here, I was trying to sort of flank around the stuff, but then it turned out they had a lot of stuff on the other side of the hill. Because of the hillside, I couldn't see this stuff before it crested the hills, which meant the Shoshers and stuff crippled my BTRs and did quite a bit of damage to it. Quickly retreated them. Elsewhere, the BMPs are still doing a fair job at fighting off the Patons, but now that the T-62s are there, just quickly over with. And he's bringing another Sheridan in. I think at this point NATO's starting to get a bit strapped for cash, but you know, because one Sheridan tank doesn't seem like someone with a lot of money. You know, doesn't seem right. Pierce and Vapuji's special forces seem to have been brought in to try and see what's in the woods, but the Flak Panthers seem to have quickly knocked them out. Also, there's quite a bit of infantry still in its vehicles. Not a good idea. You need to make sure that's still in there. Panzer Grenadiers were being brought in. Now those are expensive units that shouldn't have been rushed in like that. And they're quickly dealt with. At this point, that command vehicle is pretty much all but its fate's been sealed. He's asking for defense, but it's a bit too late for that. Elsewhere here, the Foxtrot's pretty much surrounded. Here's some ATKM infantry being brought in. BMP 685s. Now these are a rare unit for tank players to field, but they're pretty good. They're sort of like the opposite of usual packs, or like a NATO tank where they've got like fairly good speed, optics, and a stabilizer. But yeah, look, I mean, the Fuchs have already got into Foxtrot, so this is clearly where NATO is concentrating their forces. I think their plan was knock out Foxtrot, which means we can only reinforce at the rear. You know, that kind of stuff. So as you can see, I'm marking the stuff out. I knew they had a lot of stuff here. I noticed they had Weasels, which are support vehicles. They're out of fuel, so they're not going anywhere, but those autocannons or whatever they have are deadly to aircraft.